Oh, Friday afternoon, I'm done for the week. Thank goodness. Hasn't been too hard of a week, not compared to last week. You know, if you guys did not catch last week's video, I implore you to go back and watch it because it's a really good one. I'm actually kind of surprised that it hasn't received as many views as I expected. You know, A, I put a lot of work into the editing. B, it was an incredibly tough job. It took us 3.5 days to take down this giant redwood tree in the tightest spot in the backyard. You know, tough roping, tough wood down. I mean, it's a good video, so please go check it out. I maybe the title was the wrong title. I said you're gonna like this one. That's the title of the video, and I thought, well, maybe that'll catch enough attention. You know, since I started this channel, it's been 15 years. Since I started this channel, it has been an interesting journey for me because there are a lot of times that I'll put a video out there that just takes off and it really flies. And there's other times that I'll put a video out there and I think, oh, this is a really good video. And I might only get a few thousand views on it. And I'm wondering, why isn't this one as popular as that one that gets, you know, millions of views? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't have a whole lot to do with the quality of the video. It has a whole lot more to do with how well it is presented by Google. Google owns YouTube. And they've got these algorithms that put you up there based upon activity. So if I get a lot of likes and if I get a lot of comments and if I get a lot of activity on my channel, then little bells go off down there at the YouTube headquarters, and those robots and algorithms that are going to make it go someplace, make it happen. So I'm asking you, when you watch my videos, do me a favor and, you know, click on the like, add a comment, you know, whatever you can do to help me out, I appreciate it. So today's video, well, let me back up. I try really hard to get a new video out once a week. And Saturday mornings is generally the time I sit down. I get up bright and early and I take all the little bits of video that I've put together over the week and see what I can come up with. So this week I've got odds and ends, and one of the things I want to talk about is what I'm going to do with all this wood. And if you look over here, you can see I've been splitting shakes, which is something that's new to me. I'm not an experienced user of the tool called a froe. It's spelled F-R-O-E, and it's that long blade over there, and you hit it with a mallet, and if you've got good, clean, straight timbers, you know, the firewood I've got here, you can cut nice looking shakes. Now I'm going to show you some of my experience working with this, and hopefully it won't bore you, but I'll get back into a few of the tree jobs that we did this week. Fortunately, I didn't schedule anything too intense this week. We had a few big trees, but nothing like last week. So come along, watch my videos. If you're new to the channel, go back and watch some of the old ones because I've got some really good stuff in there. So let's go see what happened last week, this week. You know, I think I was born in the wrong era. I think I should have been a pioneer. I don't know, I have this attitude about learning how things were done in days gone by. I love the old tools. I love collecting the old tools. But just as important, I love learning how the old tools are used, how they were worked, what it must have been like 150 or 200 years ago, before electricity, before power tools, before chainsaws, before all the modern conveniences that we have so taken for granted. So imagine you're a pioneer and you're off in the Midwest someplace trying to figure out how you're going to survive, and you've got to build a cabin, and you don't have the kind of material. You can't go to the Home Depot to buy your shingles or your roofing material. You got to make everything. So first off, these pieces of wood would not have been cut with a chainsaw. They would have been cut by hand with a buck saw, either a two-man saw or even a single buck saw. A person cutting each one of these sections, they'd be called shingle blanks. In this case, I'm cutting them into thicker pieces, which in the States we refer to these thick pieces as shakes. And if they're split along the grain, they are actually more durable. They last longer, because if you saw a shingle, then you're cutting through all the vessels, all it's like a bundle of straws that make up the wood. And if you cut through the sides of each one of these, then the water actually penetrates into the wood and causes the wood to decay quicker. But if you split it, you're splitting along the grain, and it leaves it doesn't leave a smooth, perfect surface on the outside. It leaves a sort of a rippled edge, but the water doesn't penetrate the wood like it would if it was sawn. So I'm trying to learn. I'm not saying I'm an expert by any means. You can see that I'm kind of fumbling here, but I'm kind of getting the hang of it. And it's almost, it's almost like therapy. I've got this big old pile of wood out here. Now let me explain that a little bit more. When I did that redwood removal last week, I ended up taking 4 trailer loads of firewood. And here you can see some of the rounds. I dropped the first trailer load. It was nothing but big rounds. But then to get the wood out of the backyard, we had to split it all. And we hand split, we must have hand split 6 cords of wood on this tree and loaded them up. We had 3 additional trailer loads. And the last day, as we were splitting the wood and throwing half of it into the trailer and half of it into the truck, I told the guys, I said, let's separate out. I want just the easy stuff to split. And I honestly wasn't thinking about, using the froe at this point. I was just thinking about, okay, that'll be the best firewood, easiest to split. Because this redwood, it burns really good, but it burns really fast. So I find it's excellent for kindling. The fact that it just, you can just take it and pop a piece into all the small bits of kindling, get your fire going. I give it away to my friends and neighbors, and everyone seems to love it. But it's not good for a long burning fire. So here, I went onto YouTube and I was looking at a British guy that was talking about making hand cut. He called them shingles over in England, but here in the States we refer to these as shakes. And he actually did a little bit of shaving on the shakes. He was using the shaving horse, which I have here, and he was cleaning them up. And I was kind of thinking about it, and I said, isn't that kind of like sawing into it and opening up the vessels? Wouldn't it be better to leave it be? And I figured I'd try one. This is the only one that I've tried. And in hindsight, I think for the rest of them, I'll use this to, straighten up the edges, because it cleans up the edges really quickly and really fast, and possibly some of the high points so that they'll lay down okay. But I don't know, like I said, I'm learning, and during my learning curve, I started off with my shop mallet and I broke it. So one of the first jobs we got into this last week was a big Siberian elm. And I want you to pay close attention to all these branches that are chewed on the top. This tree had 3 large squirrel's nests up in the top, and the squirrel population seems to be chewing on the branches of trees more so during drought periods. I think they're obtaining some of their moisture from the tree, but they are causing so much damage. And this tree was also cut back pretty hard in the past. At one point, this tree was cut back to huge stubs, and the subsequent new growth is coming off of these old rot pockets. There's some tight crotches. There's just so many little things going wrong with this tree. And we were called out there to do the best we can with what we have to work with, and sometimes I just shake my head just thinking, what am I doing up here? There's some more squirrel damage. You can see the cambium tissue's been growing up around it, so that one is a little bit older, but it was terrible. I mean, everywhere I looked in the tree, there were branches that were cracked, there were branches that were broken, and these people love this tree. They absolutely love this tree, and there it is when it's all finished. This is some sort of exotic guava that this person covered up each of the fruit. And the pear trees, the flowering pears, are in bloom. Here's another job. We had this mulberry tree. Lucy bid this one, and she was looking at it. She could see that all the roots were severed. I don't know why. Probably people were tripping on them, and maybe they wanted to use the yard for something else. But all the way around, the tree was chopped back horribly. And the upper canopy of this tree had been pollarded. Huge balls were developed on this tree from being cut back year after year after year. And when we looked up there, each of these end balls was rotted. So we talked to him about it, and I said we ought to just get rid of the tree. And the guy says, no, I love the shade. I love the shade. I said, well, it's going to fall apart. And with all these cut roots, it might just fall down. And so I said, okay, well, how about if we cut it back beyond these old balls? We'll cut it down, just basically start over. So I made a lot of cuts, and sure enough, I found termites and all kinds of stuff in this tree. Each of these balls was rather heavy, but they were just so encrusted with decay that it just felt ridiculous. So we cut off all the new sprouts from last year's growth, so I can get up there and work. And then I dropped a bunch of these balls. As you can see, I cut some of them in half. They were so heavy we had to dolly them out. But it was kind of interesting. I was able to get in there and just see what the interior of one of these big developing, I'm not even sure what to call them, pollard balls. I don't know. Mulberry balls. Definitely a male tree. I know. In any case, we ended up cutting this thing back pretty good. It's much, much safer now. I think that it's going to sprout back like it always has. Fruitless mulberry is kind of the world's biggest weed. And here, I want to show you. I cut this one in half. I want to open it up for you. And that's what the inside looks like. I started looking at that. I thought, there's some interesting character in here. The people that make those river tables with resin would probably love this piece, because the color of the mulberry wood would just be gorgeous. I don't know. Maybe I'll try one. Maybe I'll save a section of it to see what I can do with it. Don't have much experience with resin, but it seems like that's a real popular thing to do nowadays. Maybe black resin, but put a little touch of white and swirl it around in some of these holes. Let's see. Look at all that decay in there. Hello. And that's the neighbor's yard. She came over and said, excuse me, can you give me a bid on doing mine too? And I said, do you want us to cut it back hard the way we're doing this one, or do you want me to just cut it back to the balls again? And she says, I don't know, you tell me. So we got it all cleaned up, and we're out of there, and that's what it looks like. Can't say I'm proud of this one, but that's what it is.